All right, everybody, welcome to LAN switching. We already talked about routing and stuff like that. Now we're going to get into LAN switching. Not that the routing is over, we haven't gotten to the advanced routing protocols, but now we're going to get into layer 2, right? The LAN itself. So when we're using, and I want to make this separation, for the test, it's layer 2 switches. Forget about layer 3 switches. I know you use layer 3 switches in the real world. In the certification is layer 2 switches. Okay, because there's certain commands, like let's say trunking a port, it's different on a layer 3 switch than it is on a layer 2 switch. So don't overthink yourself because you're working in your environment and then you need to take a certification. That's your goal, take your certification. All right, if you get the concepts down, then you'll be fine. Okay, so layer 2 switching, that's why he says it there. What do they deal with? What do switches, any layer 2 device looks at? MAC addresses. But switches learn source MAC sounds like a question. Source MAC addresses. Meaning, once that ARP, first time, right? Once that ARP goes, it's looking at the frame, it's looking at that source MAC address that's coming up. And it maps it to that particular port. And then it floods out all the other ports, all right? Looking, hey, who's the owner of this IP address? Oh, that's me. Oh, okay, so here's my MAC address. And when that source MAC address, it maps it to that port. So now it knows where to send the information. Remember we said we needed 4 things in order to be able to network, okay? So source MAC addresses, not destination MAC addresses, nothing like that. Source MAC addresses, unless you want to hardwire all the MAC addresses, which I don't think you do. All right, and it'll create the MAC address table, right? Called the CAM table. Now, what do switches bring to the table? They bring functionality, and I say it that way on purpose. Bridges, even though, when we talk about switching, especially when we get to span tree, talk about bridge ID and all that. Back in the day, bridges were meant for segmenting. That was their main purpose. Switches bring in functionality, right? Not only can you create VLANs, you can create security as far as switch port security. You can do access list. You have a better way of administering the network, all right? Because you are actually logically segmenting the network. So you can control, you can microcontrol, I guess you can call it, the different networks you have within your company, all right? But it has many little things like features like STP for one, right? Which we're going to discuss later on, which prevents switching loops. All right, so all these things switches do bring into play. All right, so this is why we use switches, because we want to create VLANs. Okay, VLANs is important. We want to segment our networks using VLANs. And switches have modes. They have modes. Server, client, transparent. By default, they're all server. They're all server switches, which that means that they send and receive updates. All right, and the clients are the same. The difference is the revision number. If you have a higher revision number, that means you know more information. Your information is newer. So if anybody tries to update you with a lower revision number, you're not going to take it because your number is higher than his. So that's the trick here. Now, even though they recommend one server switch and everybody else a client switch, okay? And I'll show you that configuration, don't worry. Transparent, that is what I call the greedy one. It's for remote networks. It does not share its VLAN database. It doesn't accept anybody else's VLAN database to update its database. It just takes whatever updates, any BPDUs that come its way, it just sends it on its way. It doesn't care about updating its own database or updating anybody else's database. All right. The good thing with this is that if, let's say you're putting in a switch and you need to change the revision number, one way you can do it, change it to transparent and then back to whatever, client or server, and then you reset the revision number back to 0, okay? Which is sometimes maybe you need to do that because you got to be careful. You bring in a new switch into the network with VLANs configured and all sorts of things. You may have a higher revision number, and then your server switch and you configure it to power that domain, and you'll see it as we go along in the labs. That means that, hey, it's going to update all your other switches, and then boom, there goes your VLANs that you had on there to begin with. So be very careful. Be very careful. Know what mode you're in. And when we get to the BTP trunking protocol, you'll see how to get into that to see the mode and how to change it and stuff like that. Okay. All right. So I hope you're ready. We're gonna get into a lot of labs and a lot of configurations, but very easy. Nothing out of this world. Okay. See you in the next one.